Hello and welcome to the Men's Room Conspiracy Theory Special Part 1.
Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Do it.
Shit, it's about to go down.
This seemed quite popular with people when I put it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoy this.
This could be a jumping on point.
It's going to be fun. We've done a lot of planning for this. Zach's put his beanie on.
Put my tin foil
hat
woolly
on.
beanie on.
Exactly.
I like my hats 'cause I love my hair too much. But
okay, so how this is going to play out is so you're listening to this part 1 right now. We're going to lay out some theories each. We're going to go around the table, and then we're going to cut for part 2, which will be out next week. So this is a double sort of recording in 2 parts.
yes,
There may be a third and fourth, I don't know. It depends how deep the rabbit hole goes. And if you want to hear more theories or any suggestions, there's no end to conspiracy theories. I'm excited.
We could also revisit some point down the line.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the thing. Okay, so
Huge range of potentials.
I think that we should just get started on this, lads.
Do it, mate.
Okay, good.
I'm
Let's crack
excited.
on. Okay, so I will start.
Yes.
So my theory is we didn't land on the moon.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh my many gods.
This is a theory that I did talk about because we have Conspiracy Corner segment on the show when we had a format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're more format.
Before this fucking dickhead arrived.
Yeah,
Before we just started rambling.
Yeah.
We used to do Conspiracy Corner.
And I did this for Conspiracy Corner in my George Walker episode, but it turned out to be a lump of shit. So I'm going to redo it again. Not George Walker, no.
George Walker guy.
The conspiracy theory, because I had my notes all in a different order. And I listened back to it the other day, and it's the cringiest thing I've ever heard. And I have to listen to.
I've got to listen to that.
I have to listen to Greg on nearly daily, so
Yeah,
I
exactly.
understand.
No, yeah. Okay, so this is a theory that we never landed on the moon.
One of the most popular conspiracy theories.
Exactly.
It probably is the
it's,
most.
It's
I'm
widely
honest, yeah.
well renowned.
It's one that I've sort of looked at the last year or so, maybe. And as I've delved deeper into it, I'll give you my opinion at the end. Let me set up my stall. Okay, so 20% of Americans believe that we didn't land on the moon, including astronaut Brian O'Leary, who himself can not say with 100% certainty that they actually happened.
And he's been to space.
He's an astronaut, yeah. He's an astronaut, so he knows this sort of shit.
Always a good sign.
It was 1969 when that was the first time we went, allegedly.
It was in the 60s.
1960, oh fucking hell, yeah.
I baited you out.
You did a little bit.
1969.
1969. Treyway.
Blicky got the stiffy.
Okay, so
Not on the moon.
it was during the Cold War, and Cold War, the US versus Russia, and it was sort of believed that if you won the space race, you won the Cold War.
Star Wars, mate.
Exactly.
Very competitive,
It was
wasn't it?
really competitive. There was a huge lack of development from the US, and it was believed that Russia were miles ahead, but even they were still far away. They obviously sent up Sputnik, the first satellite, into space in 1957, and they sent the first living thing into space, which was Laika the dog, in that same year. They also sent Yuri Gagarin, which was the first man into space. He orbited Earth in 1961.
Yes.
So as I say, they did a lot more. They were a lot further in front.
You could say they did the groundwork. so to
Exactly,
speak.
yeah. But they were still well off. The chances of departing Earth, landing on the moon, and then getting back were estimated to be 0.0017%.
Fucking hell.
So it's
Not
quite incredible that the US have been
Almost impossible.
essentially, yeah.
The closest thing you could probably get to impossible.
Well, because the thing is,
So
they
the percentage
send
of you growing a full beard, Zach.
yeah.
they sent
Yeah, it's lower than 0.0017.
I apologise for that.
They sent a
Fine. Never
satellite up,
happened.
and that was okay, good. Laika the dog didn't make it back. Yuri Gagarin did, but there's a huge controversy of whether that actually happened, because the footage does look a little bit
There was someone who they
tenuous.
sent up who didn't make it back.
exactly.
So-
So this is the thing. So Russia, they got the furthest, but still fucking up. And then the US, in their first launch, managed to do it. Got to the moon and got back. There is footage of inside the capsule. This is a video clip that was leaked. It was by mistake. It was given.
Live leak.
It was found, yeah, basically, and it's meant to show how far away the crew are from the Earth. So it's meant to be you're right up against the window, and Earth is really far in the distance. But in that clip, they didn't edit. Well, obviously it was leaked, so there's no editing with it. But actually, it's revealed that all they did was turn the lights down in the cabin, block around the camera, and put it right at the other end of the shuttle. So it was Earth really near to the window, but the camera really far away. So the circular window made it look like it was Earth from very far away.
Yeah.
This is also confirmed that evening, after that footage was taken, they landed on the moon, when only 9 hours earlier they were still in Earth's orbit, despite the journey being about 3 days to the moon. The crew on Apollo 11 took a high-resolution colour video camera, but the only pictures and any footage taken on the moon were low-definition black and white. So they took 2 cameras, one high-definition colour.
I'm sure I've seen colour footage from...
But they might have been
that
pictures that were retouched or something.
Yeah.
But the footage live from the moon of them stepping on it, planting the flag, is black and white, low quality.
Shoddy.
Shoddy, you might say that, exactly. The pictures on the moon of craters, things like that, they've found similar looking ones at Area 51 as well. There's almost an identical looking sort of sand dune that was meant to be on the moon, but people have found it just on fucking Google Earth. At Area 51. Also, the pictures, there's one picture of the lunar module and a couple of astronauts walking around with the backdrop of mountains on the moon, and then a separate video clip which is meant to be 2 miles away from that area. Doesn't include the lunar module.
Is all the scenery different as well?
No, the backdrop is identical.
Oh,
Identical backdrop, but the lunar module isn't there. And it was a couple of days after, allegedly a couple of days afterwards, and 2 miles away from the lunar module. And NASA have said that it's the same mountain just from a different angle, but when you look at it, it looks like a backdrop.
Yeah.
In some pictures, you can see, so you know crosshairs in images to show distance and sizes of things. There's some where objects on the moon are in front of the crosshair. Yeah. So the crosshair shouldn't happen. That's because the crosshair is in front of everything. Yeah. It's put onto the picture. However, unless it's edited in. So that's the big theory with that. Yeah. There's objects like lunar modules, even astronauts, in front of the crosshair.
Yeah. Shouldn't really be possible.
Exactly. Also, with pictures, it's very difficult with this one because a lot of it's fucking pictures. Difficult to describe them. There's a lot of pictures where the light source is incredible, and people have conspiracy theorists have said that even now in 28, this is the documentary was 2018. Even now, it would be difficult to get a lighting rig that good up into the moon.
That kind of debunks that though, the fact that we didn't land because we didn't have the technology to make the light.
No, that supports the argument.
How?
No, it supports the argument that we
didn't
go.
Yeah, in the very least, it supports the notion that the footage is fake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
How? Because if we don't even have that technology now, they can't.
No. We have that technology now. It's just we couldn't get it up to the moon.
You could get good lighting like that in a soundstage.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
So back then, the lighting was so good that they had. You'd need like a whole rig that they say even now you wouldn't, because like half a gram on
what?
Whatever you want. It's none of my business. Half a gram in weight makes a massive difference in space.
100%, yeah.
So if you had to carry up a whole lighting rig, you'd need so much more fuel and everything like that. They wouldn't be able to do that now.
I'm just being devil advocate here. Is there a chance that was just the natural lighting of the moon?
No, because
or the sky, or
the sun. No, because also the silhouettes don't match up and the shadows don't match up. So you've got a picture of one of the astronauts on one of the Apollo missions getting out of the lunar module, and the shadow is coming from. He's in the shadow essentially, but you can see him.
It would make sense with where the light would be.
Exactly. You can see in the picture. You can see him clear as day. You can even see the American patch on his shoulder. But logistically speaking, the light source is coming from the other direction, so he would be in the shadow, in the silhouette, so you should not be able to see him, but you see him clear as day.
Yeah.
So that's the evidence that it's on a soundstage. Also, in some pictures, that very iconic one of the astronaut right up against the camera, there is in the visor reflection a mysterious object that looks like those sounds like on at theatres they have those cameras with like the flaps.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like one of those.
Looks like what an old lighting rig would look like.
Exactly like that. Yeah. Which no one's explained. No one can explain because it shouldn't make sense.
You can make the argument that might be some sort of equipment that NASA brought with them, but
they've never explained it.
They've never explained
it. They've never said actually that's one of these. Let me show you. All of the footage, all of everything like that was wiped from NASA. They haven't got any documents or anything like that anymore. Someone's wedding, maybe they recorded over it. I don't know.
It's like, we recorded the damn moon footage.
Yeah, exactly.
Steve's kid being born.
WrestleMania
98 or something.
You tried to owe us a bill now.
Exactly. The lack of stars in the sky. So the reason that we don't see stars some nights is because of light pollution.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any light pollution on the moon. So you should be able to see a sky full of stars.
Yeah.
To quote
by Coldplay.
Great song.
Fucking Coldplay.
But you can't in any of the pictures. With the pictures, do you notice that they're really well framed, everything's beautifully like centered, things like that? That shouldn't be possible because the cameras were hooked up to the astronauts' suits.
Yeah.
And they were on the center of their chest.
Yeah. So they should probably be they should look lower.
It should look lower.
The photographer's like 1, 2, 3, pop.
They didn't have a viewfinder. They literally just had because they weren't going to take Instagram pictures. They were just taking evidence. All they had was a clicker. They didn't have a viewfinder to be able to see
so they didn't know
what
their photo would actually.
Yeah,
so a lot of them would have been fucked and not even in frame.
Of course, they would have been chest level.
It would just be photos of half an astronaut.
Yeah, exactly.
Near a pole, but or may or may not have had a flag on it.
Yeah. But when you look at them, all of these, people say that they're propaganda images of the shuttle perfectly aligned, the flag perfectly centered. All of it just doesn't make sense. If you've ever tried to take a picture on your camera from your chest, I don't know why you would, but of any other angle than head height.
Yeah.
You don't get it.
Yeah.
So that would have been impossible. Their suits were incredibly bulky as well. So adding to that, the flag is a huge one.
I know what you're going to say with this.
The flag shouldn't be moving.
Yeah.
Just shouldn't. There's no atmosphere. There's no wind on the moon.
I mean, there is movement in space, but it wouldn't be as.
The thing is, when they unravel,
brilliantly flappy.
When they unravel it, there should be some movement.
Yeah.
But it was moving as if there was a wind.
It should be. There would be a slower movement to it.
I swear they put a bit of metal in there to make it wobble or something like that.
No, it's not consistent with that though. If it was a bit more like metal, it would sway not as a wind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It would sort of
move
almost like it was vibrating.
Almost like a static movement or something.
Yeah.
But not like... It was literally like a wind, you know what I mean? Flapping about.
Yeah. Flapping about.
Another thing is that man has allegedly visited the moon 6 times. The last of those trips was in 1972. Russia still have never been to the moon. We haven't been back since. With the development of technology, anything in the world in the last 37 now years, technological, scientific, political, socially, we've never gone back. And no one can tell why. Conspiracy theorists think that it's because if they tried to and they failed, it would only add credence to the fact that we never actually went up.
Yeah. My only issue with this theory is, because I don't... This is the most famous one that I reckon there's at least a 70-60% chance that we didn't actually go. And we faked the footage. Or we did go and the footage was fake. That's what I thought.
That's what I think as well.
I think we went because it would cost
There's a lot of reasons to fake it in terms of not so much the actual mission, but faking the footage. There is a lot of good reasons.
As you said, propaganda.
Yeah. So what you're saying is
the perfect American and everything's so perfect.
Everything goes perfectly.
Yeah.
We're America.
Yeah.
So maybe the footage, as I say, was so shit. They did go up.
Yeah.
The footage was so shit that they had to recreate it.
Or they lost it. Or they couldn't transmit it or something like that.
I think what it was probably is, if you look at the way the Russian space program worked out, we know there was failures. Dog doesn't come back. There was an astronaut they sent up into space who I think he burnt up in atmosphere, because there is a photo of his corpse and it looks like, I don't know if you ever eaten a pizza sub and you've had it in for a little bit too long. Then you've come out to see it and you're like, fucking hell.
That's the thing.
That's kind of what this guy looked like afterwards. He was fucking cooked.
Yeah. So around the Earth there is something called the Van Allen radiation belt. And
Van Allen radiation belt.
Just watch that podcast for a lot of this information. Van Allen radiation belt, and essentially they think that the shuttle, because it was as much insulation as they have, a little tin can would not have been able to get through it. Because we've got X-rays and stuff that demolish camera film and stuff like that. So that Van Allen radiation belt was just on a degree of nothing else. How the fuck did we get through it both times?
I think the reason you would fake, because like with what I was saying, obviously the Russian one, people died, and there's a bunch of stuff. There's actually something called like the missing cosmonaut, which is another conspiracy, which is about people who went up secretly, never came back.
Yeah.
Either they burnt up an atmosphere. There was
they secretly knew they weren't going to make it.
I think there is actually apparently there's a bit of recorded audio somewhere of an astronaut that they don't know who she was, but she's like screaming because she's like burning up in atmosphere.
Yes, the Russian. She's like screaming and shouting in Russian. Yeah. I've heard that is terrifying.
It's
fucking horrifying.
Horrifying to listen to. It's like blood curdling.
Yeah, but like, think about it this way: you're America. You're about to send a bunch of astronauts to the moon.
Advertising it as well, so they know who they are.
And they had to win the Cold War.
And if it works, which personally I think we did land on the moon.
Right.
There's stuff on the moon. We've sent stuff into space before. We've got satellites, the ISS. We've got shit in space. We've clearly been to the moon. But there's a lot of good reasons to fake that footage. Because for one, what if you get up there and something goes wrong? Because it was a quote-unquote live feed. Mm-hmm. Astronauts' fucking suit ruptures. A guy explodes in his suit on live TV
to every single person in the world.
You're broadcasting a man dying on live TV in the 60s. Imagine the amount of... That's a bit of history.
Happened, didn't it, as well? Is that JFK's era?
Yeah.
Is that the 60s
60,
as well?
69.
Yeah, this is all this sort of era. Like, imagine if that shit happened. There was so much risk with that recording... Because it could work perfectly. And personally, I think it probably went off without a hitch. They got out there, planted the flag, did a little walk around, fucked off back to Earth. Probably what I think happened. But footage-wise, it makes so much sense to cover it up, because what if the spaceship fucking blows up as you hit the ground?
Like the first one they did, or was it the Apollo?
No, there was the Challenger.
That's it, the
rocket,
Challenger.
which blew up
on live TV.
Yeah, and schools had it on.
Yeah,
so you get shit like that can happen. So this is a perfect way of damage controlling it, because you go, well, if we land them, and even if it is just the footage is a bit shit.
Yeah.
We've got this perfectly well prepared one where all the shots are nice and it looks lovely.
And we've still gone to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the best of both worlds. We've got this great bit of footage. We've landed up there. It's not the real footage, but it's close enough. But we've managed to land up there and we've got quote unquote video proof.
Yeah.
And if any sort of accident had happened, it's not going to be shown. If I remember rightly, the feed did actually black out when they broadcasted it.
Not sure.
I'm pretty sure there was a thing where the footage blacked out for a couple of minutes, then it came back on.
Okay. Yeah. Oh no.
I feel like that happened with the first mission, but I think logistically it wouldn't surprise me if the footage is fake, even though I do genuinely believe that we obviously have been to the moon. It makes
not
sense.
obviously, but go on.
I think we've been to the moon just because there's shit on the moon you can see that we've put there. So if you've got a powerful enough telescope, you can see.
And we have
objects that we've planted on the moon.
Yeah.
And not be funny, we've sent fucking robots to Mars.
Yeah.
We've got satellites going around Saturn and shit. And they're
different.
They're hundreds of millions of miles away, literally. Mars
billions of light years, which is
not in our solar system. We've never gone out. We've only just gone out of our solar system. That's something we sent in the 70s. That was the Voyager probe.
Yeah.
And that's only just got to the edge of our solar system. But I've been doing research and Mars at its nearest point within sort of within an orbit to us, at the nearest point is 54 million miles away. And but on average it's about 240 million miles away. That's a long fucking way.
It takes 5-6 years to get there, isn't it?
I think it's less actually.
Yeah, I think it's 3 to 5 years.
I think in theory you could do it within about a year, but with the way technology's moving on, we could probably get in about 9 months.
To Mars?
Yeah.
A human? Or just
if you were to send a human mission, it would probably
We'd never get back. Could not.
No.
That's the big
why
argument.
couldn't you get back?
That's the problem.
There's just no way.
That's the problem with landing on Mars. But anyway, that's going off topic.
It's difficult enough That's the whole point with this theory, is that it's difficult enough for us to get out of
but
our
then
atmosphere.
you'd need to have another rocket prepped to
How
get
the
back.
fuck?
So
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah.
Another thing with this that I failed to mention is the footage of the underneath the lunar module. There's no blast crater. It's just perfectly nice, sandy, and underneath. But there should have been a huge blast crater, and there should be dust in it. There's no atmosphere. The dust shouldn't have been able to fall back on.
Hovering about.
Which sort of gives credence to your argument in that the footage was shit, because realistically, the dust and everything like that should be
would have been everywhere.
Everywhere.
Would have been carnage.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been like an
footage
actual
of it.
sandstorm.
I think it was damage control, just because there's just such a lot of risk that it makes sense just to do a fucking Blue Peter, and here's one I prepared earlier. Do that with the moon footage. Just like if I were in charge of that operation, I'd be like, let's go to a soundstage, fill it up with a bunch of crushed up marble.
Stanley Kubrick.
That's the thing. Apparently,
Stanley Kubrick supposedly directed it.
Supposedly, and then
That's bullshit.
I reckon that's bullshit.
well, this is the thing that a big part of evidence, quote unquote evidence, is that he put Easter eggs in his films.
Yeah.
Like with
Saying about
In
the
the-
Shining.
in the Shining,
and like
yeah.
he's got like the NASA logo in someone's t-shirt and the American flag and space. It's
And
like
the kid's jumper as well.
if you're part of one of the biggest conspiracies on the planet,
Ever.
They
funny
would
enough,
probably not want you to.
you wouldn't tease
Ironically, on
people.
the
Yeah,
planet.
you wouldn't tease.
Guess what I did last summer?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah,
So
like,
Yeah.
and someone asking, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly, mate.
me, no.
Something to go. Yeah, conflicting bit of evidence as to why we didn't go back. A lot of people say, "What's the point?"
Yeah,
We're looking.
I mean, like the moon hasn't really got a lot going on. It's not a planet.
well,
It's just
people are saying let's focus on trying to get to Mars.
yeah.
Because that's the big thing now. Why would we go back to the moon? I get that, but at the same time, I don't, because
We're selfish as humans.
Yeah,
We'd
and
want to go back.
you'd
if we
think the
could do it.
Russians at least would have made an effort.
You
to
think other
put
people would have a
plant
little
there.
swing at landing
Yeah,
on our
Exactly,
planet?
exactly that.
People are addicted to success in this world, especially like
Conquering each other.
especially
Yeah.
engineers and stuff. So they'd want
Politically-
to do something like that.
Well, politically, every
Yeah,
country wants
Yeah.
for a political motivation.
Exactly. Okay, so yes or no, Adam, do you believe that the moon landings were fake?
I don't believe the moon lands are fake, but I believe that the footage was probably fake.
Zach?
Same as Adam.
Same as Adam.
I think the footage is probably faked.
There we go.
But I reckon there's like a good chance we went, or they went.
I think it's a load of bollocks. I don't think we went. Okay. Okay, Zach, your
Right.
first theory, please.
My conspiracy theory is the royal family killed Diana. Right, here we go. On the night of the 31st of August, 97, something terrible certainly happened. Diana was killed in a fatal car crash in Paris, and the effects would be felt around the world. So she was obviously a much loved woman in this world. She'd recently
People's princess.
She's
she's recently divorced from what's his name again?
Charles.
Your boy
Charles.
Charles.
And you know,
About the only royal who can control a car.
He was about to go. She was about to get married to Dodi.
yeah,
wasn't
Dodi
she?
Al Fayed,
Dodi Al Fayed.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Son
she
of the
was
hurricane.
in Paris.
Yep.
And she was in a I don't know which tunnel it was, but
No.
she unfortunately was killed by a car crash, apparently. So the first implications were that the paparazzi did it,
Okay.
and that was what that's what the media went for, wasn't it? That
Yes.
the paparazzi
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
her, and
It's the story. Really.
Yeah.
apparently the group of paparazzi chased and pushed down his Mercedes so that it could make the crash happen.
I've heard that they were chasing after her. She told the driver to drive faster, and
Yeah.
he just fucked her.
But I've
Yeah,
never
that's
never
what I've
seen
heard.
such a paparazzi, like I've never seen such media attention on like one woman. Like,
But
like
she
my
was-
mum's told me how she was every single bit of news
Yes.
Yeah, no.
in the space of like a month.
People still, like, 20 plus years on.
Yeah,
Like,
she was being chased every
Yeah, she was
single day by
'Cause-
50, 60 paparazzi trying to take a picture of her.
yeah.
She was the first person. Well, I think you told me this, Adam. She was the first person to kiss an AIDS victim.
I think it was, I think it was...
You could don't think
No,
she
no,
kissed
no,
him.
it wasn't,
Got off with him.
Fucking fucking AIDS victim.
Gave him AIDS.
new theory.
Yeah.
Diana gave everyone AIDS.
She fucked the monkey
She
that
fucked the
gave her
monkey.
AIDS.
I think it might have about to edit this
Sorry,
out.
shook his hand.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
it. Not kissing.
Let's take a little moment so we can properly edit that out.
Yeah.
Got off with an AIDS victim.
I mean, so no, she was.
Necked off outside of Fez. Sorry,
It's
Zach.
Diana, not me.
Carry on.
No, but what it was Diana
No,
was
let
first
him
person. Diana was like the first person to like handshake and sort
Yeah.
of like give an AIDS victim a hug.
That was it.
There
She-
wasn't any
yeah.
exchange of fluids. 'Cause that
She
would be
was,
bad.
as you said, the people's princess.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't like the royals at all back then because
People still don't know.
yeah, a lot of people don't now, and like Diana was kind of the people's person. She'd always visit hospitals.
Yeah.
She'd always. Oh, what else did she do? She done about mines in.
She was
yeah.
quite active.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
She walked in a minefield.
That was
or
it.
some shit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so fucking dangerous.
Because the
And
thing
she
is,
was-
she
Bet the
was
rules was like, oh come on, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
because
Yeah.
she was kind of controversial within the royal family because she was an outsider to
She was
it.
more public.
Well, no, she was a commoner and came into it, an outsider, and then wanted to leave and all of that. So it, the royal family's meant to be this untarnishable brand,
Quite
almost.
private as well.
Yeah, quite private. But then she was quite different to that. She sort of
She was normal.
went against
Like it's fine to
Yeah.
say that they're not normal people.
Of
the
course,
royals.
yeah.
They are the furthest thing from normal and like down to earth you could ever get.
An
Yeah.
interesting choice of words.
Yes.
So there's another theory here that Henry Paul, the driver of the Mercedes, Sean de Paul.
His brother, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it says here, people who doubt the official course of events say its central claim about Mr. Paul being drunk at the time of the crash was not only false, but was a lie spread by the media to cover up the killing. The media was a huge part of this. Because I remember I did my speaking and listening exam
You did,
on this.
yeah.
I copied a whole transcript from a conspiracy video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And,
Very informative, though.
It was
You did well on that.
I got a B,
Yeah,
which is decent.
exactly.
Because you ripped
What
something.
was my first one about? My first one was about Liverpool. And I got a D in that
Yeah.
because they're... Fuck Liverpool.
Fuck Liverpool.
But apparently there was a lot of things about how there was something wrong with a Mercedes. There was I forget
the
what
idea
it
it was sabotaged.
It was sabotaged. There was like something that was placed in it that could control the brakes.
It was missing like a chip on the
Something,
motherboard.
yeah.
Yeah, and they never found it. Yeah, that same car. Sorry, to like overtake
No, Matt, I
your
want you to-
conspiracy
yeah.
a little bit. That car actually went missing 2 weeks prior to the incident.
Wow.
So,
That bodes well.
well, yeah,
It's just
I
that
mean,
there's things like this, like you said about moon landing. There are so many.
it's the little
It's
details.
the little loose
Yeah,
ends
like-
that don't really
yeah.
seem
There was a
to
chip
lead.
that controlled the brakes that wasn't
Oh,
on the car.
No, that's misquoted
some-
because it was missing a chip, and they say, looking at it now, they say that they could replace that very easily with like like a remote control car.
Yeah.
That could very easily have happened there.
So we're saying Diana Scalextrics.
The memorial
Next.
looks like a fucking racetrack for her, doesn't it?
I
To be
didn't mean
fair.
to derail this whole thing.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, I do apologize.
Oh, this is it as
Well,
well.
that's a poor choice of words. I do
Yeah.
apologise for derail.
The ambulance, I think, should have taken 5 to 6 minutes, and
Yeah.
instead it took
Yeah.
like fucking ages.
It was
Like,
meant-
I haven't got the
yeah.
exact thing here.
I think it was meant to take 20 minutes in rush hour, and this was
Yeah.
like 2 a.m. in the morning, or
Yeah.
really early hours.
Yeah.
and it took like 45 minutes to get to the tunnel.
and they stopped like 300 feet outside the hospital because she got into a critical state,
Yeah.
and no one from the hospital came out to assist.
Yeah.
She died in that ambulance,
Yeah.
and they immediately, illegally, embalmed her. And
what does
embalming,
what does embalming mean?
they took out all of her inside shit and like
Yeah.
cleanse the body, and it's notoriously it's what the Egyptians used to do.
Yeah.
It
It's the
makes
sort of stuff I normally do at funerals, essentially. Like,
it makes a post-mortem very difficult to determine the cause of
assess
death.
what's been done. Someone's cut her open. Yeah, that was done. Oh, yeah, of course.
It
Right.
makes the post-mortem very difficult to determine the cause of death. So and it's illegal. That's the
Highly.
main thing.
Yeah,
legally.
like, that quickly.
They embalmed her in the ambulance, did
yeah,
you say?
yeah.
Really?
Fucking
Fucking
hell,
hell, I didn't
mate.
know that.
No, yeah. The ambulance should have taken 20 minutes in rush hour, and it was very late night.
Should have been like a
early
20-minute
hours.
round trip or something
Something
like that.
Yeah. And they stopped the ambulance about 300 feet away from the hospital because she entered a critical condition. No one from the hospital came out to assist. Nothing like that. She died in that ambulance, and then they illegally embalmed her.
And it wasn't like it was a shit hospital. It was one of.
It was the main.
It was in the
it's a
middle
royal.
of fucking France.
Yeah, you're going to take
Yeah.
the royal to the
Yeah.
best hospital possible.
And she wasn't even that far away from it.
No,
Because she was in
and
Paris.
Let's not forget, she was in like a fucking capital city.
Yeah.
So like,
exactly. Yeah,
it's not like their gear's going to be shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's obviously going to be prioritised because she's a important figure of state
of course.
in another country.
Yeah.
So like,
Apparently, it was Mohammed Al Fayed.
That was the dad.
Dodi. Apparently, so this is according to this is what Mohammed Al Fayed says.
The dad of Dodi.
Yeah. This, according to Mohammed Fayed, was the reason for the killing. It was Diana was pregnant.
Yeah.
With Dodi's child.
Yeah.
So, and he said, and the idea was unpalatable to the British state for a Egyptian Muslim could eventually be the stepfather of the future King of England.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the whole
yeah.
thing. It plays into my theory a bit later on, but we'll get on to that.
About this.
Similar, royal family.
I think I know where you're going with this because I think I sort of baited it.
But to be fair, there was further tests on Diana's blood, found there was no sign of pregnancy.
I think what I heard is that they were trying.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
So
right,
if
okay.
the rumour got back, she might be pregnant.
yeah, well, if she wasn't killed and then they eventually had a child,
So, among them is a letter that was disclosed by Paul Burrell,
yes.
who was the butler, wasn't he?
Royal, like,
Diana's
advisor.
one-time butler, who said he had been
Played by Michael Caine.
given it for safekeeping. This is what Diana said in her letter. I'm sitting here at my desk today in October, longing for someone to hug me and encourage me to keep strong and hold my head high. This particular phase in life is the most dangerous. And it says like an emphasis like ...
Yeah,
so it's obviously carried on.
Yeah.
Is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and a serious head injury in order to make the path clear for Charles to marry.
Yeah.
It read, the letter appears eerily persistent, and indeed it had history. When Diana wrote the letter, she had experienced problems with her car and had voiced fears about them, and her bodyguard had died in an accident that she believed to be a conspiracy as well.
Because Charles wanted to marry Camilla. That it cleared the path of that. Because imagine the whole situation. Diana, so they're together, Diana and Charles. Then they've divorced.
Yeah,
Diana
divorce is in of itself quite a controversial thing.
Exactly, but Diana then marries Dodi Al Fayed, son of a millionaire. He owns Harrods.
He's also Muslim,
Fulham,
which isn't...
owns Fulham as well. Yeah, Muslim, Egyptian, as you said.
Oh, he owns Fulham, doesn't he?
And then Charles marries Camilla. It's all just a mess. So Diana really was a loose string. So I don't know.
How long had they been divorced for?
No idea.
It wasn't. I don't think it
years,
was that long. I mean, yeah.
Not long, but because she died in '96, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, very sad.
I definitely think that.
What are your thoughts?
I think that there's too many loose ends, too many little details for there not to be an involvement in some case. Maybe not the royal family, but something.
Yeah,
the driver.
Something fishy definitely. Went down.
No one saw it either.
The driver.
How are they going to crash? Like it was 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
I actually don't know how did they just go into a wall?
It was in the wall, and I'll tell you this one: the tunnel that she crashed into was cleaned and then reopened within 3 hours, so it wasn't even left closed
to investigate.
So it's like
so if there was any evidence at the scene,
so
literally swept under the rug.
They cleaned up the site that it happened and then embalmed her very quickly. So it's kill her, sweep it under, clean cut.
The turnaround on it is insane.
Do you reckon her kids know exactly what happened?
No idea.
That's
another thing. People think it's quite sick and twisted that the royal family made the two boys, Harry and William, follow the casket
That's fucking
in the car
sad, isn't
on the
it?
procession.
Remember my mum telling me when she watched that.
There's a sort of thing of maybe they wanted to, but still, if there's like 12 and a 9-year-old, are you really going to let them?
Fucks you up, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel
People
like
think-
with that's.
People think that it's a power play from Prince Charles. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. That one's a little bit more
But to be
tenuous.
fair, they are
That
his
could just
kids
be
though as well.
Yeah,
Like, he's not going
that
to
could
put
just be a bit of a
through
stiff
torture.
upper lip.
You don't know.
Classic
Yeah.
British. Oh, they're keeping strong, you know.
Another thing with that, the driver. I know this much. This is really. I don't know the names,
He has
but
quite bad Yelp reviews.
no, he was. The driver allegedly was intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to this bar. I want to say it was called. No, his name's Henry. I was thinking it was Henry's bar
Henry
or
Paul.
something. Henry Paul.
Yeah,
but
from the Paul.
Yeah, Logan Paul's stepdad. He went. Apparently, he was at a bar that evening drinking. The barman says that he has no recollection of seeing him there. Then they say that they found traces of a certain drug in his blood system.
And so, did he survive? No, I didn't. I imagine
Everyone
not.
died. Yeah.
They found traces of his blood. They found in his blood traces of a drug, but Henry's doctor said that he never prescribed him that, and instead he prescribed him a totally different drug.
Yeah.
So it's not even that it was clean blood and they added this drug. It's that they should have found a different
it's
drug,
the wrong drug,
and they've just switched it out. So
like that seems like well he was on pills anyway, but then you go but it's not the right one.
Yeah,
then it's like
for them to throw a completely different name up.
Yeah.
In toxicology
implies something like they've done something different.
Yeah,
weird,
I don't know what that drug was for. There's a reason that
that's a strange.
There's a reason that they said it was that drug.
It's an odd little loose end. That
maybe it was like I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but there was a reason that the reports came out that it was that drug because it's prescribed for this issue.
Yeah.
And then doctor said no prescribed him for that.
Yeah.
He was actually on this for this issue.
There was a lot of hatred for the royal family after that, wasn't there?
There was. The Queen did do like a speech sort of thing, didn't she? But people have analysed that and thought she's very cold and callous.
I think her voice was a bit shaky in terms of the fact I think she was holding back some form of emotion.
Yeah,
but
it's a really odd one because if you look at it as like, the royals didn't do anything, it's you're kind of going, I feel really bad about my son's ex being dead. Like it's kind of a strange one because like just within just a general social norm thing, it's like how are you meant to feel about something?
Because they weren't going to give her a royal funeral, were they?
Well, the thing
Until
is, like,
there was massive backlash.
Obviously, at that point, she wouldn't have.
No,
so
technically she shouldn't have got one.
Still, she was involved in the royal family. Yeah.
The reason why is just because she had kids. If her and Charles had split off without any kids, I don't think she would have had some sort of big royal.
Yeah, that's true.
Sort of funeral.
It's It's a very interesting theory. I like it.
It's a really interesting one. I think the thing that really starts you is the speed of it. It's
and
like
how quickly everyone's like,
it's like dead.
Next.
Now tunnel clean.
It's
now funeral.
Body sorted, funeral. Like such a quick turnaround.
Yeah,
It's
I think it was like 14 days or 15 days.
Yeah, that's
from the death
insane.
to the funeral.
Really?
Yeah.
They are quite quick in the royal family, though.
They like to do.
But if someone like dies of old age, fair enough.
Yeah.
Or if
but
you're
like
98 and die,
I know. I still.
there's got to be an
the
investigation.
amount that happens in one day. Accident, dead, embalmed straight away.
Tunnel cleaned.
3 hours. Like it's almost as if people knew it was going to happen and got ready for it preemptively.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the speed of it. If it was just handled normally, you wouldn't think much of it. But there's this sort of quite like everyone in the car dead.
It's very clean cut.
Yeah,
there's very clean cut.
There's loose ends in.
It seems like they just vanished.
There's loose ends, but there's not people who are loose ends. There's just the odd bit of.
No one will ever know what happened.
Yeah,
except for the royals.
It's very clean cut in. Considering that it was meant to be a shock event that wasn't meant to happen, it's all very clean cut.
Yeah.
It was the tunnel was wiped and cleaned very quickly and reopened again quickly. Reopened, so that's moving the parts.
After a royal family or an ex-royal family member's death.
Yeah.
Like she was the most important person in the world at that moment.
I get that you'd want to clean it up quickly, but it's all too snappy.
Yeah, because it's one of those things you can argue it as either they knew it was going to happen, so they were just like, it's like they had the road sweeper just tucked around the corner. Okay, go. Or you could just say, like, because of the situation, you don't want, again with media, you don't want a bunch of people going, look, bit of debris from Diana's car, let's fucking get like 20 photos of that, and that'll be on the front of the Sun the next day. Like, you don't. You can argue it that way as well. It's one of those things where you can flip it either side.
Definitely, but there's a lot of evidence for there being some involvement.
Something dodgy definitely happened.
Very dodgy. Very dodgy.
So, Zach, do you think Diana was killed by the royal family?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, I do.
Adam?
Please don't kill me, royal family.
I'm not sure, honestly, because you've explained it in the way of like reasons why the royals weren't dead. But bear in mind, was it Alfayed?
Yeah.
The dad. Mm-hmm. Rich businessman.
Who's
to say that he wouldn't piss someone off who would go, right, get to the fucking royals, might have a kid from that line.
Yeah.
Well, let's fucking do that.
Okay, I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to think that I think there's foul play. That's what I think.
There's foul play, but you can point at
a lot of people.
I don't know if Alfayed's got any particularly powerful enemies, but say if he did,
he might have been a fucking dodgy man. You never know.
He might have wanted to cut ties with it because think of the amount of.
That's his son.
But
you know what I mean.
People are ruthless. I'm not saying that he is, but people.
Someone might have had something against him.
But think about the amount of leverage you gain. Oh, my son died. Oh, Diana, the people's princess. Or she's still idolised now.
Tony Blair's statement on it was sad, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Have you not seen it? That's when he calls her the people's princess.
Oh really? When it was coined.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a thing where there's a lot to gain for certain parties, and it could be for the royals, it could be someone else, it could be like a little coalition of the royals with another person via someone else gets rid of, bump her off. We can use that to our advantage. Keep the kids under our control, so we don't have a bunch of other Dianas who are going to be a pain. And also we deal with this other problem with Alfayed, and so there's a lot of things it could be. But I'm not going to say it was the royals or anyone in particular. I'm just going to say that something fucking dodgy went down. It wasn't an accident.
No, I don't think it was an accident.
I don't think it was an accident, but something dodgy happened. Whether or not it was the royals who did it,
I think that there was definitely involvement. Also, I potentially from the royal family, but that's speculative. But I think that there's involvement.
But how can you crash in a tunnel? It's relatively easy. I haven't seen a tunnel, but it's straight.
He crashed into the wall.
yeah,
It's a straight fucking road.
He was driven
isn't it?
I don't
you
know.
can
about
crash
that.
in a tunnel. You can,
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can crash.
but at 2 a.m. in the morning with no other cars,
but if you're surrounded by paparazzi and
they must have seen it. Then.
they start directing you into a certain direction.
Yeah, if you're rushing and then you just lose control.
If you're too busy doing that,
It's
they're gaining on us. Bang.
It's very possible that it was an accident, but when you look deeper into the evidence,
I think there's foul play, but you can't necessarily aim it at any one particular person.
when you look at it at face value, it's very likely that it could have been an accident. However, when you look at the evidence, it's overwhelming.
But if it was paparazzi, surely they're greedy pricks, aren't they? Right. They would have just gotten out and taken a picture of it all.
I mean,
Is there not? Isn't there not a
there are
photo of
pictures.
Diana being put in the?
there's a picture of her and Dodie in the back.
Isn't there a photo of her
stressed.
being put in the ambulance or something like that?
No idea.
I thought that was a thing.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
I might be thinking of something else.
But that's something paparazzi would do.
The paparazzi could have been paid. They might not have been paparazzi. They might have just been royal
actors.
securities.
Fucking hitmen.
Yeah, royal security that were just playing the role.
Contract killers.
Yeah.
Motorbike.
Sad though. Rest in peace.
Very sad. Yeah. So Adam, your conspiracy theory.
My conspiracy is that giants are real.
One sitting there.
Yeah, I can barely see him. But no, this is a conspiracy.
Exposed.
This is a conspiracy that claims that giants are real and that there was actual skeletal evidence of giants that were then covered up and destroyed.
Okay.
Shit.
I think it's kind of an interesting one because there's a lot of just sort of cultural evidence that kind of supports it. Every culture has got this idea of giant humans.
Define giant. When you say giant, how tall are we talking?
We're talking like
David and Goliath giant.
Yeah, we're talking
BFG.
12 foot full.
9 foot, 12 foot.
Yeah.
BFG.
Going
size,
bigger than going up and beyond.
So
up and beyond 9 foot. Human.
Oh right.
Human ultimate peak, I feel like, is about 7 foot.
Yeah.
But we're talking
8 foot, I reckon's peak for humans.
But we're talking 9 foot, 10 foot, 12, 15.
BFG
we're going bigger
size,
and bigger and
okay.
bigger. And this conspiracy claims that there was a skeleton found, there was actual bones evidence found of a giant human that was found in America back in about 1908, that sort of time.
So how do they define it as giant?
Well, I've got a little photo. Obviously, you can't.
Like the limb size. Or
Yeah,
skull, or what did they find?
This is the sort of thing you're looking at. This is one of the photos.
Okay, so skulls.
They're two normal heads. And
they're
the one
two
on the
normal
end
heads.
is...
The one at the end's a giant.
Okay, so now what we're looking at is 3 skulls,
and
two human size, and then
there's one that's notably bigger.
One extremely larger, which is the suggested giant skull.
The idea being is that, because if you look at every single culture, there's always been this thing about giant humans.
Okay.
David and Goliath. There's something mentioned in the Bible as well. It's in the Old Testament. They're called the Nephilim, who were like another race of humans.
Okay.
There's loads of accounts of gigantic humans. There was the idea that people like Sir Francis Drake, when they went on their expeditions, reported these towering natives that were fucking huge.
Yeah.
And they these giant bones of dead people. And there's always been points and stuff like that, things like cyclopses and
Greek mythology.
All through history. Some of them can be disproved. Like cyclopses, there is a reason why people in ancient times would think that a cyclops existed. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the skull of something like an elephant or a mammoth.
Yeah.
Kind of human shaped, big old hole in the middle.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
You can disprove that one,
yeah.
but this one's kind of fishy. Because,
and like folklore and storytelling, like around the campfire and stuff, you create beasties and creatures.
and like with certain ones like that, you can understand. I think the idea of giant humans has always been something that's kind of universal, but it's kind of interesting to think about the idea that maybe they did exist, and this theory suggests. I'm trying to find, because there was a guy who supposedly found one. Where they found these giant remains, and this is in 1908, and they were going to send them off to the Smithsonian, and they've never been spoken about again.
What's the Smithsonian?
It's like a massive museum. They do a lot of archaeology, paleontology there.
It's where Night at the Museum 2 set.
Exactly.
That I played that game on Wii. That game on Wii, one of the best games ever.
But these bones were like meant to be fucking huge. Like we're talking. And there were distinct differences between us and normal humans. There was one account that said that this particular skull they found had 10 teeth, top and bottom, and they were more designed for eating vegetation.
How many teeth do we have?
I think we have like 20.
Oh right, so a lot less.
So a lot less. And the idea is that they seem to be designed for crunching
big
plant matter, essentially. Not like they're not mad, scary giant cannibals, but they like veggies and shit. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the idea, all these bones were sort of found. And there's a lot of ideas of it existing throughout different cultures. But this idea is that the Smithsonian were given the bones and they just were like, destroyed them. I think this is a really interesting sort of theory because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff through history. This idea of there being giant people. It's always been something deep embedded in folklore. Some of it you can sort of disprove. But even now we've still got it with things like Bigfoot.
Yeah,
and obviously this was in America, the idea that this thing might have existed, and we know that humans and humanoid creatures can develop outside of the normal size spectrum because there's a little island in Indonesia where they found a subspecies of humans. They're dead now, but they were like hobbit sized. They were like hobbit sized. They were like 2.5 feet, but they were perfectly proportioned.
That's fucking.
But because they lived on a smaller island,
they just didn't survive.
Because they lived on a smaller island, they just sort of died out on their own. Food got scarce, that sort of thing. But they were probably a normal-sized human species that was there. And because of the lack of food, they shrunk. Because they've found this before. It happens in nature.
Yeah.
You get things where you get giant birds and tiny little horses.
Yeah.
And they've even found like on this same island, they found an elephant species that's about the size of like a Shire pony.
Right. So fucking weird.
It's
different.
It's a natural phenomenon of like dwarfism develops to adapt to a certain environment, essentially.
Okay.
So it's this sort of pygmy thing where like you get animals that are considerably smaller because of the food and environment that they exist in.
That's fucking weird, isn't
it?
Amazing. There's like what's civilization that we have not found yet.
Yeah.
And they're like living.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
like
these ones
within themselves.
There's tribes. There's still tribes to this day.
I mean, obviously with a lot of this,
weird.
Incredible to think about.
Yeah.
With this stuff, obviously a lot of these are long dead.
Yeah.
But you look at it, and there was on Cyprus, there was a species of mammoths that was small that was still alive at the time we were building the pyramids.
Wow.
So like that puts it into perspective. Like,
Fuck.
the Great Pyramid was being built at the same time there were mammoths kicking about in Cyprus.
Mental,
That's the sort of thing we're talking about. So if you apply the same theory that we can get smaller to suit an environment, who's to say a humanoid species couldn't get bigger to suit an environment?
Yeah, especially what did you say, 1908 was it?
This
found the bones.
This is when they found the bones. But
Wow.
the problem is because they were never scientifically
recognised,
sort of analysed, they were never studied properly.
Okay.
We don't know if those bodies were 10 years old or 10,000 years old. They could have been fucking ancient.
Yeah.
Or they could have been from a couple of years back.
Mm-hmm.
And they got sent to the Smithsonian.
And they just sort of disappeared. No one knows what happened to them. The idea being is that the Smithsonian destroyed them. Whether or not they were fake, real, whatever. They were never scientifically categorised.
Why would they... Because that sounds like a cover-up, but I don't understand.
But this is the thing I don't get either.
Yeah.
Why would you cover it up?
Yeah.
It's a positive for them if they had it in their museum.
Well,
incredible.
It's
fucking giant bones.
At the time, yeah.
Because there is such a lot you could potentially learn from it. But like, it just sort of didn't really go anywhere. No one really knows what happened. But like it's happened in other cultures where people have said that they've come across sort of living giants who were like 9 foot tall, but these bones, I think they were around 9 foot, 10 foot. So it was unusually large.
Yeah.
Like, because you look at someone who's big, you look at someone who's like, I mean, Greg, you're what?
6'3".
But you get people like the guy who plays the fucking mountain on Game of Thrones. He's like 6'10".
Or like any basketball player, really.
Yeah, like
Manute Bol.
Yeah.
7'7".
Exactly.
they're fucking big. But then these bones are from people who are 2 feet bigger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like
Which is like ridiculous to think about.
That's like,
and if you think about
like
it,
2 subways.
if you
Like,
think
that's hefty.
if you think about it, that as well, they'd have to be in proportion. Like, because obviously you couldn't be the size of me, but that tall, you just wouldn't work.
Once you start getting to a certain height, you start getting things like bone defects, get blood
Andre the
problems.
Giant, wasn't it?
Well,
he was
yeah,
fucked because of how big he was.
Well, the tallest guy in the world now, he has to have a walking stick and everything like that. And
Your bones become brittle.
get infected.
so you'd have to be in proportion.
You get that thing of like blood flow.
Yeah.
Because like this is kind of a.
It's like a giraffe.
This is a
isn't
comedic offside, but there was once. This is genuine as well. There was a guy who had dwarfism, but he had like a massive dick. So when he got a boner, he'd pass out because it was too much blood flow, and it literally knocked him out.
Yeah.
But
I'm like that.
It's kind of stupid.
I have the opposite problem.
I'd say that if I was a
But
dwarf,
like,
to be fair.
but like that, it's the same. It's
Might
like,
be short, massive schlong.
Yeah.
It's like he was a human tripod, but the moment it happened, he passed out. But
How
like,
much blood went to his dick?
yeah, because he would just pass out because it was
Oh my
too much.
God.
Because he was a
That's
little guy, like it
hilarious.
would knock him out. But
It must have been huge.
Must have been like man.
it was like he was like Vern Troyer size, and he had like 9 inches packing. So like it used to knock him out. Anyway,
biggest thing.
offside.
Oh my god.
Love that.
But the idea is that there's a lot of English explorers who travelled around, and they described meeting 9 foot native giants in places like Patagonia, where they would be like, "Oh wow, these guys are fucking huge. Hello," and like there's well documented and described this kind of stuff.
But that's normal for them in Patagonia, isn't it?
Well, not to be 9 foot tall.
I mean-
but when they're mentioning it, they're saying that. I mean, with stuff
That's
like
what
that,
civilization was there.
Yeah,
with stuff like that, it could be exaggeration. You know,
Yeah.
because if you were an explorer back in the 1500s and you go, "Oh, we met the natives and they were 9 foot tall.
Yeah.
They were ever so big and they had fucking 18 eyes and fucking wings," and you know, like you're going to exaggerate because no one's going to fucking see it.
Yeah.
With this one, it's a complicated one, I think, because who knows where those bones ended up. Maybe they didn't go to the Smithsonian, maybe they did get covered up, maybe they point towards some other bigger conspiracy. Who knows? The bones might have been faked just to gain a little bit of notoriety. You see this sort of stuff. One of the it breaks into that thing of like cryptids, the idea of, you know, like Bigfoot. He's a cryptid. Loch Ness Monster, cryptid. One of the best ones, the Mothman. The idea being is that the Mothman might have just been made up by this little town as a tourist ploy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's to say that this wasn't an attempt at that?
I reckon that's what the Loch Ness Monster is.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no one
It's
was.
a tourist ploy.
Because the idea is that this happened in San Antonio.
Okay.
So it could be that they were. I mean, this was before the Mothman. This was like 1908. So this is fucking ages before. It could have just been an easy example of bone misidentification, or maybe they just found bones of someone who had gigantism. That they just had a growth defect that made them really fucking big.
Yeah.
They've found stuff like that. They've found bones of humans and other animals that are deformed and shaped weirdly, and they're going, "Oh, I don't know what this is."
Yeah.
And then you give it some scientific analysis, and you go, "Oh, it's not that. It was something else."
Yeah.
We like to exaggerate, don't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah. Tell stories. Of course.
It's there is a lot of stuff that backs it up, but I think a lot of it can be discredited. The idea of giant humans, if you look at a bone that you don't know what it is, you might think, "Oh, it's that." It happened all through medieval times. There was a guy, a very famous king, who was like, "I have a dragon skull," and it was a woolly rhino skull.
Oh my God.
So he has this big thing with the teeth and the big fucking horn, and because there aren't any woolly rhinos anymore, people go, "Fuck me, it's a dragon head."
Gotta be.
Yeah. Because they don't have the understanding at the time.
No.
Same with what I was saying before Cyclops is you look at a mammoth skull, it looks, for all intents and purposes, like a Cyclops. It looks like a human head with a big fuck off hole in the middle where an eye would be. It makes sense. I think that there's a good chance that these bones are probably misidentified. They probably found bones of something from the Ice Age, be it a woolly rhino, woolly mammoth, even like a fuck off big primate. Because they found a primate called Gigantopithecus,
Yes.
which was basically like a
Jungle Book, isn't it?
basically like a hefty orangutan, essentially. But those things are fucking huge.
Yeah.
They were like fucking 10, 11 feet, something like that. So if you find one of those bones, or an animal
They're so similar to humans, aren't
yeah,
they?
they're similar to humans, but you look at one of them and you see this big thing that looks like a human thigh bone, but it's fucking the length of, I don't know, a fairly hefty table. You're going to go, fucking hell, giant humans. Good chance it probably isn't.
I reckon there has been people that have been 9, 10 foot in this world.
I
Like
think
humans.
it's not impossible, but I think
There must have been, like, in terms of how long this world's been here for, and how many places we've not discovered, and we've not, and there's been like
I think
civilization.
Biology can throw up some really weird
you
things.
get some
shit.
you get
Weird
some
shit.
quirky.
Yeah, like,
you
I'm
get
looking
some
at one
quirky
right now.
shit involved. But I think it's an interesting conspiracy, and it's backed by a lot of cultural evidence, but none of it's substantial enough.
Okay.
Because without these bones, we can't actually go, well, it turns out these bones are actually from an extinct species of whatever, or, oh, they're actually bones from a fucking buffalo that just got scattered. Because it doesn't say in this article if it was an articulated humanoid skeleton. It's not like they just dug up some fucking dude who was like fucking 12 feet long, and they're like, whoa! But if it's like a
Did
bunch
they only just find the skull? Did they only...
No, I mean, the skull, to be honest, that skull could be fake.
Yeah.
Who's to say that? Or it could even be in the photo. It could be a perspective thing. Move the skull there. Have the other two
A
back.
new story.
Could just be. It could just be exaggeration. It's a weird one, but I think it's got a lot of interesting links to
Very
stuff like.
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It could point to stuff like Bigfoot and shit like that.
But in terms of evolution and
it would be a huge fucking curveball
civilization
if
and stuff.
there was a giant species of humans that existed. It would. The evolutionary tree of humans is complicated enough as it is, because the problem with humans is we're kind of small and we're a bit brittle, and when we die, we don't always preserve brilliantly, which means that a lot of evidence we've got for whole species comes from teeth.
Yeah.
Because teeth preserve quite well.
Record,
We have like a pretty consecutive documentation of human species where whole species are just identified by like a molar or something like that.
Yeah.
If we were to dig up a huge fucking human body that was perfectly articulated and was scientifically dated properly and properly categorized, it would completely change the human evolutionary tree. Because it's like, where the fuck does this fit?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
it's a big fucking elephant-sized human in the room. Like, you're like, where does this go? I think it's really interesting, but it could easily just be people starting up a hoax. It's happened through history. People do it all the time.
I do like the idea of some guy just talking about all of this a couple of thousand years ago, just absolutely talking out of his arse about what he's seen, trying to impress this girl or something.
Because that's basically what the English explorers were doing.
And
they
then
were just going like, fucking, wow, crazy
and then
shit.
then thousands of years later, we're like, you've got actual scientists thinking about like, oh yeah, no, this could be actual theory. Something I heard on a podcast once, which is quite an interesting way of thinking about it. So imagine you're at thousands of years ago, you're in like at a campfire or stuff like that. You've got like villages. You go out fishing for things to get food, all of this, all of that. Imagine one day you're like, I don't know, in the water and this body comes up or something. Because think about it, we've only discovered 5% of the ocean.
That's fucking ridiculous, isn't
So if you think about if something washes up on the shore, you take it back to your village and you like think, fuck me, what the fuck is this shit? If you just bury that or something, if you worship it, whatever you do, if you just find it and something like that, that could have a very similar thing, because we can only compare to what we know.
Yeah.
So
this is a problem with this, because obviously I haven't got the bones.
So you look at the
I actually have. Just got.
Yeah, you look at the human skull. Well, you look at something that looks like a human skull, and you think, oh, it's got to be a human skull.
Yeah.
What if that's something from the ocean that just washed up on a shore one day? This village took it back and buried it, and then thousands of years later, we look at it and think, oh, this is some kind of different humanoid, but actually it's a species in the ocean that's existed way beyond our time.
That freaks me the fuck out. The ocean thing.
Yeah, well, only 5%.
Only 5%.
There's a slight arrogance in that we can turn around. Not us sat here, but as a species, think like, oh yeah, we know what that is. Yeah, we can explain that away. Like, oh yeah, that looks like this. Really, we
are
don't
blind to the water.
Essentially,
in the ocean,
essentially.
Did you see that video the other day of that fucking huge fish that had like teeth?
I think that was fake.
There's always
You
things.
think it was fake?
It doesn't look real to me.
There's always things wash up on.
I'm a fucking animal nerd. It doesn't look real to me.
It's always
But did you see the video?
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah.
Some of that.
It's always like fucking Weymouth and Plymouth that they always wash up on those beaches. It's like
Shit
a real
house.
hot spot.
Normally,
like,
stuff like that is
shitty
just- they're
seaside
normally,
towns.
They're normally bodies that have decomposed, so you can't really tell what it is.
But
That's why they go, this fish is fucking furry, and it's like it's not. It's just because its body's decayed.
Yeah.
But there are some things that wash up, and you do look at them and you think, like, "Fuck me, what is that?" It's because we don't know what is under
the
there.
scariest fucking place.
So-
With the fact that we've explored more of space than the sea. I mean,
Percentage-wise, I don't know about that, but I see I know what you mean.
it's harder to.
I think we know like the surface of Mars better than we do the ocean.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a thing I've heard.
Yeah.
Like, there's some places where like there's like so many species that we've
It's
not
just
even
because
found.
it's just because of
5%.
the depth. It's,
You can't.
Yeah.
Mariana's Trench is just
Yeah.
crushing.
There's a really creepy bit of footage.
James Cameron went down, didn't he?
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
something.
There's this really freaky bit of footage of because there's a species of shark that lives really deep. It's fucking huge. These things are fucking gigantic. There's a theory I think that they can live 500 years, like individuals.
Purely just because they're not
Just 'cause-
exposed to anything, really.
Yeah, they can live like crazy long.
What are they like?
They're
really
probably
deep?
In the
deep
deep,
down.
yeah.
Like,
But there was a bit
Darkness.
of footage where people
where light can't reach.
No, yeah.
people thought this fucking thing was like, the megalodon, the ancient extinct
The meg.
mega shark.
Mega.
It's a megalodon. They thought it was one of them in the footage, but it's not. It's just one of these sharks, but they're fucking huge.
Yeah.
But
so you've seen them before?
Yeah, but they're
okay.
really rare, and because they don't go near the surface, they're comparatively quite docile compared to something like a great white, but they're
Yeah.
really aggressive. These things are just bottom feeders. They wait for a whale to plop to the bottom of the floor and they eat it. There's a footage of you see all these little fish eating it, and you just see this fucking thing appear, and all of them are just like, fuck that. And this huge
We
shark.
definitely need a
emerges.
podcast about the sea.
The ocean is terrifying. It's
Well,
The
really
most
terrifying.
terrifying
Jamie,
thing.
pull that shit up. Like,
Yeah.
we-
Jamie, get
Shall
that
we?
shit. Yeah.
like it's a fucking freaky bit of footage. I remember seeing it and being like, Jesus.
So
This
Adam,
thing's huge.
do you believe that giants existed?
No. I think just because I'm cynical and I've also got quite an extensive paleontological mind about stuff like this, I doubt it. I think most of it can be misdiagnosis of other things, even if it's just a fucking bear on its hind legs. You go, looks like a bloke.
Yeah.
Primitive person's going to
Yeah.
go, looks like a dude. We get it now. People go, it's Bigfoot.
Mm.
And they bring you a dead fucking grizzly. And you're
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
it's not, is it? Like,
No, exactly.
So I don't think so.
Zach, do you think that?
Yes, I
giants-
do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think there's like, how long has this Earth been here before? Like, how long is it?
A couple of years.
No, it's
3,000
like
years.
billion.
But
It's 4.6 billion years old.
yeah,
There's got to
That's
be
how old our
something.
sun is. So the Earth's probably
Yeah,
around the same sort of
there's
age.
got to be
Yeah,
fucking.
which- yeah.
There had
There's-
to been something in an era, or
Why not? That's my-
even in like a fucking year period in this
There's
billions
lots
of
weird
years.
shit that has
There's
existed.
got to be like a 10-foot human, just because of like laws of like.
averages.
Averages.
Even if they didn't live very long.
No,
there's a
exactly,
good chance
yeah.
that
Yeah, of course.
something like that might have happened.
I think that I completely agree with you, Zach. I think at some point there must have been, because fuck it, we're here.
Yeah, these fucking
I mean,
primates here.
us- Yeah, there's these bunch of
this
fuckers.
theory sort of points towards the idea of there being whole species, but the idea of someone
Yeah.
genetically mutating to be that big,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just through mutation and deformity, isn't impossible.
We three strange creatures are here. We exist, and then you got fish, and then you got all birds. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
I mean-
think that in our history, I think it's too arrogant to.
Just say we're the only ones.
Say
that
that.
are
I
here.
mean,
yeah.
even if you look at something like the fucking Elephant Man or whatever, like
Yeah.
look at that. If you were to look at those bones without any knowledge of what it was, you'd be like, "The fuck is this?"
Yeah,
Exactly.
the bone of his head, or
Yeah.
like his skull, sorry, the bone of
Bone
his
of his
head.
Oh, the head bone.
No, the head bone. But if you look at his, if you look at his skull,
You're a paleontologist, aren't you, Zach?
but
Studying.
if you look at
Anthropology.
But if you look at the Elephant Man's skull, it looks like some paper mache
Yeah.
and a cabbage. You're like, what's going on?
It's fucked, isn't it?
It just looks really weird,
Yeah.
and like that's just
Head bone.
Genetics
No,
going,
Childish
yeah.
Gambino song.
head bone.
Oh, fucking
Oh,
hell.
that's brilliant.
Oh.
I'm a spastic.
But no, I'm gonna say I don't.
I'm a
think it
bonehead.
happened. I don't believe it.
You don't believe it, Zach. You believe it, and I do as well. Okay, cool. So, on to our next theory. The Dyatlov Pass incident.
See, I know about this one.
You
so
know-
I'm
A little bit of it, or all of it, or...
most of it.
Most
I feel like I know most of it, and I know
Okay.
some of the conspiracies.
Well,
about
this
it,
is one that
so-
I've never heard of before, but it piqued my interest, and I hope it does
It's a rabbit
for
hole.
yours, Zach, and for you listening at home. So, In the Ural Mountains of Russia, there is somewhere called the Dyatlov Pass. In February 1959, 60 years ago to the month actually, 9 experienced hikers lost their lives, very brutally in fact. Their tent was found in ruins and was cut from the inside. Several of the hikers were discovered barefoot and almost naked near the original campsite around a month after they disappeared. The rest were discovered almost 3 months later, buried under snow in a ravine. What's interesting is that the trail of footprints, some of which barefoot, led from the tent and just simply stopped. Even to this day, 60 years later, there's still no explanation, and it's considered one of the 20th century's most mysterious incidents. Here are some of the theories and possible explanations. Okay, so the most obvious and the go-to one would have been that there was an avalanche and they tragically got lost in it. However, in this area, there's absolutely no history on record of any avalanches, and certainly none that would have caused death. Also, the injuries that were discovered on the bodies didn't align with such an incident.
How bad were the injuries?
I'll get onto that.
Okay,
I'll get onto that. This explanation was very much promoted at the time by Russia and everything, so that prompted suggestion that it was a cover-up because it just doesn't add up. Second theory, a bit more outlandish. There was a UFO.
UFO.
Yeah, UFO.
There was a UE bowl.
There was a UFO involved.
There was a Super Bowl.
It's a bit outlandish, but it is a theory that some researchers do believe. While there's no evidence to suggest this, there are some interesting details to examine that might suggest involvement of a highly advanced craft from another world. For example, where 2 of the hikers were discovered, there was substantial damage to the trees above their base, their camp base, not the base of their penis.
Fucking child.
The damage was around 4.6 metres high. You're right, Zach.
You're a gorm, you are, mate.
The damage was about 4.6 metres high. Some researchers theorise that this was the result of a UFO hovering just over the treetops. In addition to this, some of the group, who were discovered months after they disappeared, were found with pieces of skin, lips and eyes apparently surgically removed.
Jesus.
Yeah, while some of the people claim that these injuries were the result of decomposition, others argue that they were too precisely cut, which suggests intelligent action.
Is it too precise for sound, people?
Exactly.
That's weird.
Theory number 3, a Yeti. So,
it's my giant humans again.
exactly, yeah.
Back to this.
One of them rocked up in the snow. Fucking Adam saying I'm bullshit.
So, in the Ural mountain range, there is a tribe called the Mansi tribe, and they have a legend of a Yeti-like creature called the Menk. The Menk's room.
Plug.
Menk's room.
Episode 1, the Manx room.
Which is said to roam the area. There's a famous picture that was recovered from the belongings of the group on
No way.
Nikolai Thibault Brugnoli's camera.
That looks shot to high heaven.
I don't know.
That looks like bullshit to me. That looks like something out of Creature from the Black Lagoon. They don't know real.
It's known as Frame 17, and it's a strange picture that seems to show a figure that bears resemblance to a Bigfoot-type creature. However,
that looks like shit to me.
However, it could be one of the hikers.
Yeah, I would say probably a hiker.
The fact that this was the last picture that Thibault Brunoli took leads to some people reading more into it than there might be.
That was on one of the hiking members.
His last picture.
Fucking camera.
Yeah, his last picture.
Oh my fucking god!
I'm
mate.
not convinced, Black.
All right,
It
okay,
seems too perfectly staged.
We'll get onto that. Last theory. So there's lots of theories. I picked the best 4. This one is called the gravity fluctuation theory. So what this theory essentially argues is that there was a sudden drop in gravity in a quote-unquote corridor that the hikers were unfortunately camped in. It's a little known phenomena, but it does at least in theory explain the location of the campers' bodies.
Yeah.
For example, it's argued that those who first rushed outside the camp were essentially placed into a non-gravitational situation where they died instantly, as if they were in a vacuum. The others were dragged from the tent, which would explain the tears from inside. They were literally ripped from the tent due to the sudden and dramatic drop in gravity. It's also argued that this unusual phenomenon occurs more than people realise, but rarely results in such a drastic situation.
So you're saying
I
that
do not
gravity
get that
just
at all.
stopped working?
Yes.
Yeah, and they got sucked in and fucking killed.
Yes.
I feel like
Yes, ripped from their tent. Two
what
of
was
them
the
were.
attitude of this? Like, how high up were they? Because I feel like if it was high up, then you could argue, the atmosphere's thin, so
Mountain
maybe
range.
some
they
shit
what?
could happen like that.
So this theory says that they've gone sucked from their tent and pulled down the mountain and fucking killed.
So this theory is that they were trapped in a quote unquote corridor of between the mountains, maybe, where gravity fluctuation occurred. So the two that were outside were in the non-gravitational situation and died instantly, like a vacuum. The others were dragged from the tent, which would explain the tears from inside, and then thrown around. That explains why some of them were found in a ravine and some were original
As you
camp.
say, footsteps.
Footsteps just suddenly stopped.
That's probably one of the creepiest details, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm
That
pretty
is
sure there's
weird.
actually one of them's tongue was missing.
They're,
I've
yeah.
never heard of this.
It's interesting,
That
isn't it?
picture one is fucking creepy, mate.
Okay, so I like this one because, as you say, the
It's a
picture...
good picture as well,
Yeah.
like.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
picture, yeah, which gives credence to Adam's point that it's
I
too
think
beautiful.
I think it's shot.
But my point is, if it was a hiker, he's not dressed like a hiker.
No, he's dressed like a bear.
Yeah, it's like brown clothes, isn't
Yeah.
it? Really?
My problem is that if you were out in the snow, you wouldn't look that pristine. And just by community, oh hello, like you'd think if you move in there'd be a bit of motion blur, you would look.
Or
Cut-
just
you
Just
know,
imagine
fucking-
straight after this photo, that fucking comes running
ran
at
at
you.
you. Yeah, well, that could
if
have.
you were like if that thing was covered in snow and a bit more blurry, I would be like, yeah, it could be.
Let me
But
just,
it just looks too perfect.
let me describe it for you listening at home. So essentially, what we're looking at here, it's known as, if you can look it up, it's known as frame 17 in the Dyatlov Pass incident. It's snowy ground, few trees, and then this figure.
It's like a macro shot of the branch in front, but
Yeah.
it's very blurry in behind.
Yeah, so the focus is on the branch very near to us, and then in the background there is a blurry figure that 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head, slightly brown as if it's Bigfoot fur. However, that is based on our knowledge or depictions of Bigfoot. It's a similar sort of thing of if there were aliens, we picture them to be little green men with big eyes.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've grown up to know. So this Bigfoot image is, we know what Bigfoot looks like.
Yeah.
My argument is that if it is one of the hikers, I don't know. It's not dressed up like a hiker. Is my point. There's no.
I mean,
No, but but then again, I'm
who's- who's
picturing.
to say
Where
there
did
are
it-
only people on the mountain?
That's another theory. There's another theory that they were near a prisoner of war camp, and there was escaped prisoners who didn't realise that the war was over at this point. Saw them, killed them. Also that
And if they had been locked away, it would explain the savagery of some of the killings and
yeah, exactly.
footprints not being there. They could
Exactly.
cover it up.
So did footprints carry on after that picture?
I don't know where this
The
fits.
specificity
This was
of that photo is kind of hard to determine.
This
Yeah.
was the last picture taken, but it doesn't. They don't specify
That could
whether
have been
it's
taken days before,
exactly,
or like
exactly,
20 minutes before they got killed.
or 5 seconds. So there's no time frame as to when this picture was taken, but it was the last picture taken.
That's creepy as shit, bro. That is mad.
So yeah, there's another theory is that I mentioned before, the Mansi tribe found them and killed them, so it could be a member of the Mansi tribe.
Crossing into our territory, getting
Yeah.
eaten.
Also with that territorial thing, the Gulag around that area could have found them, thought they were escaped prisoners or Americans or something like that, and killed them.
Even with the injuries, you could claim that could be an animal scavenging
Yep,
on their corpses.
definitely, and decomposition.
Yeah.
Because remember, the initial 2 were found a month after,
Yeah.
and then the rest were found.
You say
3
the
months.
eyes and lips were removed.
Skin, lips, and eyes. So
Well-
apparently, quote, surgically removed.
You ever seen a crow peck something's eye out?
I can't say that I have.
Yeah, I've watched enough animal documentaries. The way like a bird scavenges, their beak's pretty fucking surgical. They make a pretty clean
Yeah,
indentation.
and
It's
this.
not say they just go, oh look, an eyeball. Fucking love eyeballs. Bang.
Bear in mind, this is surgically removed by 1959 standards as well. So,
Not to say that surgery
What
in
was
the late
surgically
50s wasn't
removed?
bad.
but
Eyeballs
very different
Eyeballs
now.
and stuff.
Yeah, eyeballs, lips.
Ooh.
Eyeballs, lips, and skin.
Yeah.
Apparently surgically removed. Another thing is that they were the unfortunate victims of experimental weapons testing.
Yeah.
Russia
reckon so.
Yeah,
testing.
wasn't there
Happens.
saying the bodies had an unusual amount of radiation on them? I've read that before.
That radiation belt.
Van Allen.
I can't remember what kind of radiation it was, but it's like it shouldn't have been there.
Maybe,
like
yeah.
It's
I
because
reckon
obviously
they were
everything's
found.
got some element of quote unquote radiation, because there's just naturally radiation about. But like, this shouldn't have really been on them.
As a side note, the Ural mountain range is known for being, well, theorised as being a testing facility, sort of up around there for Russia. So it gives credence to that, I suppose.
Yeah, it could be something like they
and-
got exposed to some sort of chemical dump or something.
Another theory that I saw was something to do with the American Secret Service, but I didn't like that theory because it didn't really flow for
It
me.
sounds like total ass.
Yeah.
American Secret
Yeah.
Service.
I reckon they were found. I reckon they were found by like people who thought they escaped and just fucking killed them.
Gulag, you think?
Yeah.
Government.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the most. I reckon that's the most like. But if there's radiation,
yeah,
with
and
that, that's
and they
weird.
wouldn't admit to it, would they? As
No,
well.
this
Russians.
is Russia at like not at the peak of
But
sort of Soviet Union, but they were like they were very powerful. Then.
Yeah.
I don't think
They'd do something like
I
that.
think Stalin was about. I think he died in 53, something like that.
not a clue.
So like
It's that
it,
era.
It was post
Stalin
It was
era.
post Stalin.
Yeah.
But like there would have still been like gulags and
Hmm.
fishy Russian shit. It's pre-space race. So
Exactly.
That's interesting.
it's
Never
in
heard of
that
that.
timeframe.
Interesting,
I
isn't
must have heard about it like before, like in like a conspiracy video or something.
Maybe
but
I got it all on
That's
that.
the first time I've heard it in
of
detail.
before, but like
I suppose the question to ask with this is, what do you think the most likely
out of them four or in general.
out of whatever in general or out of those four, given what you've heard, what do you think, Zach, is probably the most realistic thing that happened?
I reckon they were probably found by the Gulag
Okay.
and like
Mistaken
just
for
fucking
prisoners.
tortured and killed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Interesting.
if there, as you said, if there was radiation on them,
I think it was some sort of military cover-up that they were doing some dodgy shit, and these people walked into it by mistake.
My stipulation with it is that it's described as 9 experienced hikers. So you'd almost think that they'd know where to go.
Discredits the idea of it being an accident as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Because
I reckon
they were killed.
that's yeah. I think they.
I don't know, were killed by anything environmental. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's
don't
what I
think they
mean.
just walked into an avalanche.
Yeah.
I doubt that.
No.
Definitely not an avalanche.
Well, there's no record.
The
in that
injuries
area.
as well sound a bit too precise for saying.
It's
by
a
an avalanche.
targeted.
If someone's like, "Oh, his body was crushed, his fucking arm got broken off, and his head
Yeah.
was like caved in," I'd be like, "Yeah,
How long
a
have they hiked-
shitload of
hiking
smoke
for?
could do that."
I don't know how long they were out for, but they weren't discovered until
I think they were
a
out
month.
for like 9 days or something like that.
Don't
It was
know.
about a week and a bit they were out, if I remember rightly. It's been a while since I read about it myself, but
I think they were found. A few of them 1 month after at the camp, and then 3 months after near a ravine. That's the thing. Why, if they were killed by people, why would the footprints just suddenly stop? And why
I mean,
would
So
they?
there weren't
all-
any other footprints though.
if
So someone mustn't have come up and killed them unless they
what that could be
fucked the
is,
footprint up.
what it could be with the footprints, it could just be another layer of snow landing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if it's a heavy snowed-in area in the middle of fucking Russia, who's to say it didn't just?
But then
snow again?
why would that happen to some footprints and not? If that's
Some
what you're
might
saying.
not have been as fresh. Ones that hadn't been there as long.
But no, they're
it's,
barefoot.
it's a hard one to
We
sort
will
of.
no. There
There's
are
some-
so many theories with this. I reckon.
But
There's
there's
so
so-
many things that you could.
Yeah, that could have happened.
Because if I can say, well, something might have got covered because they were older footprints. Yeah, but at the same time, you go, well, why was some covered and not all?
And why was some discovered barefoot and almost naked, and then not?
It's a lot of it that could be like I think something unusual happened. I think they were probably caught off guard, so it might have been a point where.
Do you go barefoot in the Ural mountain range though? Wouldn't you sleep in thermal socks?
But say if you're sitting there and some fucking guys start shooting at your tent, you're not gonna go, hang on, I put my boots on.
Yeah, but why would you have?
Because if you're running on adrenaline, you're just gonna get the fuck out of it. You're probably not even gonna feel it straight
But
away.
barefoot and almost no one's barefoot
No
and
one's
almost
gonna put
naked.
barefoot in.
No one's
gonna-
barefoot and
That's
almost
why I
naked.
think they got caught out.
No.
something
I'm
happened.
saying
You don't even sleep in your
No.
boxes.
that's what I'm
It's,
saying.
it's unusual,
Weird.
but
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, this points towards maybe.
And their experience, so they know about.
Maybe something was going on up here. Maybe their brain was a little bit
Yeah, people can just
fried,
snap, can't they?
Yeah,
Just like that.
it's like you see these people who get stranded on,
But they weren't stranded. That's the thing.
But like, say, that's the thing. It doesn't say about what their supplies were like. Maybe they were running low on food. Maybe Maybe there was something fucking trippy and weird going on in that mountain, some sort of experiment. Starts making them go a little bit fucking cuckoo, and then just start, fuck it, I'm just going to strip off naked and run around in the snow like I'm a fucking loony.
People can just switch like that though.
It happens, you know. You see people in moments of stress, they turn to a fucking lunatic. Like,
I don't know. About
Very
that
good,
one.
very good theory.
it's a
though.
really
I like
interesting one because
It. So many.
It's an interesting one. It certainly is.
You know what I think? Let it be a mystery.
Really?
It will always be a mystery. We'll never know.
Well, like you're 60 years on, they're never going to get anything now.
Anything, but it's too far gone now.
Yeah.
To point anything explicitly. It's this, and obviously there's not really any evidence left. So.
Okay, so that just about does it for part 1. You can talk during this bit. I'm just saying,
Just sitting there, looking like you're about to drop a massive poo.
Yeah, just like.
Right. Okay, that just about does it for part 1. We're going to stop there. Tune in next week for part 2. Do hope you've enjoyed this. We'll be looking at some other theories. Also, the theories that you sent in. Thank you very much for listening. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.
See you later.
That's how.